بله 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 بنده صدای شما رو دارم. سلام علیکم. الو. بله. الان دارم ببخشید یک دقیقه دیگه این تمام میشه، نماز بعد از زیارت بعد شروع میکنم. ایرادی نداره، من راحت. بله هیچ مشکلی نداره. ببخشید. خواهش میکنم. چون آقای محمد گفت که ضبط گفتن من ریکوست چون بله میگم آقای محمد گفت ضبط کنم. ایرادی نداره، از جهت بنده ایرادی نداره. چیز به درد بخوری نداره، ولی خب بله. السلام علیکم و رحمت الله. بعد اینکه ارزا نمیدونم ادمینش کیه که باید اجازه بده، یعنی دیگه ریکوست. anyway شما که تو صفحه ریکوست نمیبینید که برای نه بسیاره. خب شما هر وقت صلاح بود شروع بفرمایید دیگه، ما خدمتتون هستیم. امروز من برای اینکه باز یقین بکنم مال امروز مال شهادت امام رضاست دیگه، فردا مال اربعینه. بله بله بله. خیلی خوب، شروع کنیم. بسیار خوب. سلام علیکم جمیعا و رحمت الله. اعوذ بالله من الشیطان اللعین الرجیم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. الحمد لله رب العالمین والمرسلین والصلاة والسلام على سیدنا و نبینا و حبیب قلوبنا و طبیب نفوسنا و شفیع ذنوبنا ابی القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين المنتجبين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. For the hastening and the return of our Imam, let's recite the salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. We express our condolences to the Imam of our time, to all the lovers and followers of the Ahlul Bayt on the occasion of the Shahada, the martyrdom of our 8th Imam, our beloved Imam al-Ridha, alayhi alaf al-tahiyyat wa al-thana. May Allah give us the tawfiq to visit the shrine of this Imam, inshallah, in the near future. The topic that I would like to present on the Shahada of this great Imam has to do with something that we are all somewhat aware of, but I'd like to discuss it in somewhat more, I don't want to say details in terms of historic detail, but a little more detail in terms of analysis. I want to analyze something that we are all aware of to a certain degree regarding Imam al-Ridha, the life of Imam al-Ridha on the occasion of his Shahada. Inshallah, we benefit from this. I feel very much that I am in need of this, and I feel that the community of believers is very much in need of this, especially at the given time, meaning the time that we live in. And inshallah, I'll elaborate on that briefly, hopefully, before we get to the masab. I hope that I don't exceed the 30 minutes so that we can, 35 minutes, so we can have a few minutes of masab at the end. Bi'idhnillah, inshallah. One of the known facts of the life of Imam al-Rida that is generally known to be related to the last 2 years of the life of Imam al-Rida, which is also, those 2 years are very much related to the Shahada of Imam al-Rida, the 2 years that the Imam was forced to, against his will, as we all hear, and to a certain degree I would have to agree with that. Against his will, he was taken to Marwa, which is on the outskirts of one of the current cities of Turkmenistan, which is part of Khurasan. Khurasan was an area that covers the northeastern part of Iran as well as some part of Turkmenistan. I'm not sure how much of it, but definitely the city of Marw is in current-day Turkmenistan. The ruins still remain, and definitely parts of Afghanistan. I'm not sure how far deep, but that region was referred to as Khurasan. And that was the capital of the Khalifa, the Abbasid Khalifa, after the battle. You're all familiar with this. I don't want to take too much time on some of these details, just to bring us up to speed and get us to understand the context. A few reminders. After the war fought between the two brothers, Amin and Ma'mun, Amin sees an adversary that remains, a problem that persists in the kingdom, in his view, of his Khilafah, as it's called, but it's really a kingdom. This is a monarch, an emperor. A problem that is a big problem is the problem of what they referred to at that time as the Alawids, okay, or Alawiyun. And the reason why by this time they are referred to as the Alawiyun is that the Abbasids were considered to be the household of the Prophet. The Ahlul Bayt was not something that was limited to the Ahlul Bayt that we are referring to and we understand. The Ahlul Bayt was a platform on which the Abbasids came to power. Let's not forget that Abu Muslim al-Khurasani, when he started his rebellion against the Umayyads, the call was toward the Ahlul Bayt. And he had conversations with multiple factions of the Prophet, which we as the Shia don't refer to them as the Ahlul Bayt. Ahlul Bayt is a particular part of the family of the Prophet, but nevertheless, in the minds of the people at the time, it was extended to the relatives of the Prophet. This is how it was perceived, and therefore the conversations that Abu Muslim had with numerous factions or clans from within the household of the Alawis, if we may refer to all of the Sadat as such. Banu al-Hasan were one clan, and they ended up fighting with Banu Abbas on the idea of rule or for ruling. They spoke to the Abbasids, they spoke to many factions. Abu Muslim al-Khurasani did. There's different conversations narrated in history regarding that. So the Ahlul Bayt did not refer to what we call the Ahlul Bayt. The Ahlul Bayt became the ruling class at the time, which were the Abbasids. The other faction or clan of the family of the Prophet, in the broader sense of the word, that was a threat, that was perceived as a threat, and to a certain degree it is correct to perceive the true Ahlul Bayt, the descendants of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the A'imma and their followers, the Shia basically, to see and perceive them as threats to the rule of the Khulafa. But to a certain degree it is incorrect. Anyhow, the threat that was perceived within the household of the Prophet, or in the broader sense, were referred to as the Alawis, the other clan that were revered by people, had a large following, more or less. And the following of the Shia referred to as the Ahlul Bayt, or otherwise at the time referred to as the Alawids, that one needs to obey, and whatever they say is revelation. They didn't perceive the Ahlul Bayt as such. They didn't understand. They didn't believe that the Imam that we call the Imam has that type of relationship with Allah. However, they were seen by a broader group of people within the Muslim community as pious, knowledgeable, just people. And so the influence of an Imam was on the hearts of many. Many poetry was large numbers comparatively of poetry is found of that time praising the Ahlul Bayt. And so the threat of the Ahlul Bayt was something that was very much serious in the minds of the rulers, not as much obviously as the two brothers within the family of the Abbasids, the threats that were perceived and they were dealt with a lot quicker and through wars. But once he got rid of the threat of, or once he overthrew his brother, because his brother was ruling, now the threat that he sees, a serious threat, and it's a popular threat, is Imam al-Rida. To deal with that, he summons the Imam to Maru, and there's some good analysis that the great Shaheed Ayatollah Khamenei in his book, or a book that is a compilation of his words, his speeches, some of his speeches put together in the form of a book called Insana 250 Sale. There's pretty good analysis of what the objectives of Ma'mun were. Why did he not just straight up kill the Imam like his predecessors had after he saw the threat? Why did he summon him to Maru? Why did he offer Khilafah to him? I don't want to get into all of that. What the Imam ended up doing in those 2 years, after he was brought and summoned to Maru, was that for the goals and objectives in the mind of Ma'mun to try to change the perception that people had of Imam al-Rida, he did multiple things. One of the things he did was setting up sessions that are known as debates. There were debates that were set up between various scholars of various religions, probably scholars that were not even religious. I have not skimmed through all of the debates. I've seen some. My vague recollection is that some of them were not even theists. There were dahriyun, people who did not even believe in God. A lot of discussion and public discourse with a certain terrible objective, of course, that Ma'mun had. Besides some personal objectives that he had in setting those up, he liked to be seen as an intellectual. You know, emperors like to be seen in ways that they like to be seen in. And different emperors are different. Some like to be seen as very rich, very wealthy. They show that off. Some like to be perceived as intellectuals. Ma'mun seemed to have that desire to be perceived as an intellectual. And so he engaged in these types of sessions in his palace and elsewhere. They had public discourse. These were public sessions as far as I have heard and to a certain degree read, hearing from scholars, from speakers that were, at least to my knowledge, educated. The narrations themselves, the way they are narrated, also indicate that these were public discussions. These were not private sessions that were held behind closed doors, a few people sitting there. These were public discussions, as public as it could be, meaning with the limitations of no audio systems and who could hear and how many people would be around. But nevertheless, these were public sessions. We hear about discussions, debates from the time of Imam al-Sadiq salamullah alayh. Many of those discussions and debates are the students of the Imam with different ideologies. One of the names you hear is Hisham ibn al-Hakam, one of the best of the students of Imam al-Sadiq, according to, or based on what I have seen. I can't make that claim with 100% certainty, but based on everything I have again read and also heard from scholars that are more, to my knowledge, are more have more expertise in that particular field. It seems like this was the greatest student of the Imam in terms of debates, of course, discussions with people on topics especially related to the wilaya of the Ahlul Bayt, but also with Tawheed and similar other topics as well. You hear those types of discussions, but Imam al-Rida salamullah alayhi engaged in these discussions directly. The context that was created, he was put to that task by a terrible person for terrible reasons, but nevertheless, this is the outcome. One of the cases, one of the instances of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he says in the Quran, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ, or as the Farsi saying says, ادو شود سبب خیر اگر خدا خواهد, if I said that right. Imam al-Rida engaged in these discussions directly. Now, I don't want to get into the content of these discussions. What I do want to talk about a little bit is the openness of the Imam in discussion, and I would not call it a debate. And I'll define both of these and talk a little bit about the two of these. So what I want to discuss is the debates, the discussions that the Imam had at that time, the way they were planned, the way the Imam dealt with them, and what we, I believe, at this time need to learn from this. The way they were set up was a debate format. A debate format, or more sinister motivation of his, is because he doesn't believe that an Imam is divinely guided, he wants to bring multiple intellectuals to show to the people that this man is not who you think he is. All the praises that he thought were exaggerated about the Ahlul Bayt, about the A'imma, he wanted to publicly disprove them by showing how the Imam performs in the face of all these different religions, intellectuals from different religions, different ideologies, different belief systems, come forward, the best of the best. Everybody, just bring them. Somebody is bound to have a situation where the Imam is going to falter. The Imam is not going to have an answer. To him, that's what it looks like. That's what he plans. So it's a debate to get somebody to disprove the Imam, let the Imam seem either that he doesn't have an answer or for him to behave in a wrong way in a debate, and that will disprove his piety. One way or another, he thinks it's a win-win situation. This is our analysis, obviously. There's no narration that says this is what Ma'mun planned. But when you know the man is there to rule, offering khilafah is not something that he is genuinely doing. Making the Imam the person that if anything were to happen to Ma'mun, he becomes the next Khalifa is a show, obviously, especially since we know he was nevertheless the one who actually personally poisoned the Imam, contrary to his predecessors. We don't have another, even Yazid did not personally take the life of an Imam. Ma'mun personally fed the poison to the Imam. In a session that he was there, in a private session, he's personally, directly involved in feeding poison to the Imam. This is unprecedented. And it was something that was not done afterwards either. He ended up doing that. So he's not genuine about this. These debates are not to be understood as a genuine debate and let's see what happens, especially one after the other. When we analyze all the conditions, we understand that the platform is created not to show off to the people how great Imam al-Rida is. It's quite the opposite. The objective is to show how your perception, all these great things you say about this man are untrue. All right, that's what the objective is. Now, I don't want to get into the political stuff, but this is important for the topic in order for us to understand what setup the Imam is being brought to. It's a debate setup. In a debate, people who engage, the language that they engage in sounds intellectual. However, there are elements within it that you try to, one way or another, prove your point and to discredit your opponent And in that context, when that starts, when you know that's the platform, everybody engages in it with that same motivation. It turns into a verbal fight. It's like UFC, but verbally, intellectually. You're trying to beat your opponent up. You're trying to defeat your opponent. That's the mindset. That is the setup. Nobody's there with the understanding. This is the context of debate. Nobody is there to understand what the truth of the matter is. No one is there to present what the truth of the matter is if they are convinced otherwise, because it's not about that. What it is about is disproving your opponent, showing that you are a better debater compared to your opponent. That's what the setup of a debate is. That's what that platform looks like. And that's why I find debates to be the most toxic environments. Some of the good people that I would otherwise within the Shia community, when I watch their debates without people outside the Shia community on the topic of wilaya or defending tashayyu', I have heard very wrong things said by them. Very wrong things. Utter lies. Complete lies are told. I was shocked beyond recognition when I heard with my very two ears, it was a TV channel, and the person was there on the phone, though his video was in there. He was live, and I was watching it live, and I knew the person. And he said something that was a complete lie. There was nothing true about that. There was no way of twisting it and say, well, he meant it in this. Why? Why would you do that? Because it's a debate setup. In a debate, being true, remaining true, is very difficult. The idea is not to present the truth. This is the setup, this is the platform, this is the environment that is created. It'll have one of two effects. Either the imam does not have a response, and it is made obvious to whoever is present there that the imam is not the one you guys say, oh, he has divine knowledge, he is this, that, the other. Okay. He doesn't have answers. Or if he is a better debater but doesn't have answers, because that's what Ma'mun thinks, he's going to react in ways that are not pious. You could catch a lie. You could catch him go back and forth, say one thing but then go back on it when it suits him otherwise. That's what happens in debates. That's when you're watching as an outsider the debate, you can see that. This person didn't have an answer and he made something up, and then when you press him, he goes back and forth and he tries to justify it. You see that. One of those things is going to happen. Imam al-Ridha salamullah alayhi does not deal with it in that way. He uses it as a divinely planned platform for him to speak the truth that he has not had an opportunity on such a platform addressing so many people, and the word getting out for more and more people to hear what is being said in that session. The imam engages in those. He doesn't say, no, I'm not going to engage. I'm against debates. I don't think debates are healthy. No, he knows this is an unhealthy setup, but he says, sure, I'll go in. But he's going to do his thing, just like every setup that Ma'mun created, every platform, the Eid prayer, for example. There's so many examples. Every platform Ma'mun created with a sinister objective, with a terrible, evil objective, the Imam turned it around and made an opportunity out of that, a divine opportunity that showed the truth to more and more people. And that's why the name of Imam al-Ridha remained very popular for at least another few decades, such that the Imams after that were known as Ibn al-Ridha. All right. Imam al-Hadi is known as Ibn al-Ridha. That's the grandson of Imam al-Ridha. He's known as Ibn al-Ridha. The name of Imam al-Ridha became that popular. He made the best out of these opportunities that were set up for the failure of the Imam. But the important thing is, what did he do? I want to use the verses of the Quran. We have this word that I mentioned. The closest word we have to a debate is jadal. Look at the verses that we have this word mentioned. It says, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Okay. جَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Discuss, and then when you do jidal, if you're going back, they engage in discussion. You don't engage in a discussion of falsehood. And you don't even go basic either. جَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Okay. Choose the best. Present the best. Doesn't matter if the person doesn't understand. That person who is engaged in that discussion doesn't understand, can't get what you're saying. It doesn't matter. جادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. Present the truth. All right. Presenting the truth in the way that in a discussion format is possible, where when we look at the debates, as we call them, that Imam Rida is engaged in, there are some very serious discussions of creative revelations, very intellectual discussions. Imam Rida doesn't say, well, you guys don't even know how to pray. Imam Rida doesn't say, well, what's the point of this? I'm not even going to seriously engage in this discussion because of A, B, or C, or whatever reasoning. He engages in that. Okay, you want to discuss these things? I will discuss them, and I'll present the truth. The truth that goes beyond your head, beyond your understanding. They all realized and recognized that this is something we haven't come across. If there was something called i'jaz at the time, it would be referring to the work of Imam Rida, where all the scholars are left without a way of responding. There isn't something they could say, one after the other. The same man, different topics, different religions, different ideologies, and these are not claims that are made. One can refer to these discussions and the recordings that are found from people that didn't admire the Ahlul Bayt the way the Shia do. And this is not a discussion, I'm not presenting the idea of divine knowledge for the Imam. What I'm trying to present is this. The Imam engaging in discussion, not debate. He didn't follow the rules of a debate platform, try to disprove. The reason why the opponent was disproven was not because the Imam's objective was to disprove. It was because he presented the truth. He articulated it in the best way possible. Now, I am not an Imam. I don't have the knowledge of the Imam. I don't have the abilities of the Imam. What we can learn from the Imam is engaging in conversations and discussions and presenting the truth. Okay, presenting the truth. Not falling in the trap of debates. Trying to disprove, I want to prove my point, I'm on the right side of history, I'm on the right side of this topic. That ruins it. That flaw is going to ruin any discussion, even if you walk into it. I've watched discussions, I've watched debates. They're not discussions. I've watched debates of atheists and Muslim Shia, supposedly scholars in the West, because they're not people who have Hausa education, the person that I watched a debate from. And that's besides the point. I'm not talking to people to encourage people to only engage in discussions or debates if they have a Hausa education. No, the point is, as a broad point, we need to understand that one of the things to learn from the Imam is engaging in discussion and articulating to the best of our ability the truth based on our understanding. That's going to have a couple of very important points for us, for you and I, that were not true or did not have to happen with the Imam, but they will have to happen with us. But back to the point of watching debates. I've watched debates, and it's clear that the Shia brother, good intentions going into the debate, but it's very much charged. And the brother is not engaging in a discussion, a healthy discussion. It's a debate. The other side is attacking theism and this person is attacking the arguments and just trying to scramble for something to argue the point. It's very visible in the tone and the language. That's not what Imam al-Ridha did. Imam al-Ridha's engagement in discussion is discussion. Discussion, presenting the truth. Based on what he knew, and obviously, of course, he knows a lot. And in the best way that he is able, and he's capable a lot more than we are. What we can learn from that is just be honest and have genuine discussions. Genuine discussions means present what you understand the truth of the matter is. It doesn't matter if the other side accepts, doesn't accept. You're not trying to prove to the other person that you're right. You're trying to engage in something that is healthy. جَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. It's healthy to have conversation, even if the other side has somewhat of a bad intention, because we talked about the intention of Ma'mun, not the scholars that came. I don't know what their intentions were, but I can't say that all of these scholars that were brought, they all had terrible intentions, and they all knew that they were wrong. They just came out there to put up a fight against. No, it's just, as I said in this example of the atheist and the Shia brother having a debate involved, and they get the better of us, as we say. And unfortunately, we do. So the intentions weren't the best, but the Imam engages nevertheless. But the way he engages is presenting the truth and considering conversation healthy. And I can go back to Imam al-Sadiq salamullah alayhi's time, where he, the only thing he opposed, there is a conversation between him and one of the companions that he had, and he tells him, that particular companion, he tells him not to engage in debate because he ruins it. You just can't engage in debate without ruining it. He knows the truth about the Ahlul Bayt, he believes in that, but he gets saying things or doing things in the discussion or the debate that are counterproductive. A person who can't control themselves emotionally in a discussion, the advice of the Imam is, it's better if you don't engage in it. Go learn your thing, be away from these discussions. And that's a very important reminder. We are in need of healthy discussions. This is the point, healthy discussions. But one of the needs for a healthy discussion is, I would say, the most important need of a healthy discussion is honesty with oneself. If you don't perceive what you're about to say to be clearly the truth, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't allow the urge to prove the opponent wrong cause you to go ahead and rush in saying something that you're not clear, you're not sure it is right. Think about it. Pause a little bit. Then say, if it's clear to you that this is to the best of my knowledge, and that's لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. We're not the Imam. We don't have the divine knowledge. What we do have is, to the best of our knowledge, I'm clear. That honesty factor means that in the context of that discussion, that Q&A, that conversation, if I said what I said because I thought it was true, it was clear to me that it's true, but once I said it, things were said in response that now I am not sure. Be honest with yourself. If you don't want to say it, at least allow your mind to stop thinking what you thought was right is still right, because it's been questioned and you're not sure. Go investigate afterwards. These are the things that apply to us. We don't have the knowledge of Imam al-Ridha. If we want to learn from this, we can sit down and praise the Imam for having all the knowledge, which in a certain context, it's very important for us to do that, for us to be reminded, or we remind each other that the A'imma have knowledge that none of us have. Therefore, listen to them. They know better than you do. That's for that discussion. But when you want to learn from the Imam, the practice of the Imam here, which is engaging in discussion, not debates, meaning allowing the debate to be set up, but he, from his side, is engaging in jadilhum billati hiya ahsan, about the truth, presenting the truth, clarifying some of these arguments. I don't have time right now to go through the arguments that the Quran talks about Ibrahim, presenting arguments. They're not debates. With Namrud, he presents arguments. With his father, Azar, as the Quran refers to him, he argues. Breaking the idols is not him vandalizing and showing violence. It is an argument. None of the verbal conversations meant anything to them. He wanted to show them and demonstrate, not vandalizing and disrespecting. It was to argue. At his time, in his context, that was a way that was not. That's the objective of it. To show and demonstrate a truth. If we want to engage in that, and we should, this is the time for discussions. These are times we need to be discussing, and we need to learn the idea that we should be open to any discussion, all discussions, all topics. And either don't say anything if you don't have anything to offer, because you don't know the truth of that matter. Or if you think you do, present what you have, but be open to hear criticism. This is the honesty. Hear criticism, arguments against you, and be honest with yourself. Not with the opponent, meaning the opponent is the opponent. The person that's engaging with you is a person who's engaged with you. By the end of it, they may think whatever they may think. Positively, negatively. Internally, if you're clear, this is true, argue the point. Explain further. If you're not clear, then stop arguing it. And go and learn, go and study. One of the things that we're seeing in today's world is open conversation. وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. There's a lot of different motives for all these platforms to be created. Social media, the motives for people, I don't want to mention names, people who are behind these, using them and what have you. Even some of the people that engage in it put up their videos. I've seen scholars, like biblical scholars, putting up videos, and their incentive, at least part of it, is money, right? But look at what God has created. It's an environment for dialogue in ways that were never possible. Discussions, I see people rejecting hadith, rejecting Quran, rejecting this, rejecting that, accepting this, accepting that, coming out presenting videos, explaining their views. This is amazing. It's amazing. The motivation of whoever on earth is involved with it, whatever their motivation may be, the output, the outcome is, there's one of the other verses that we have in the Quran where they came to the prophets and said, well, if you're the prophet, then bring this. A couple of times God gave them particular i'jaz or miracles. But if you look at the verses regarding even miracles, there were proof. After the people rejected the story of the camel of Thamud, right? The Prophet Salih, he showed that miracle. They said, you need to bring a living camel, she-camel, out of this rock. He said, okay. But he didn't say, I'm going to do this. He said, look, I'm nobody. I can't prove anything. God said, okay, he's going to do it. Let's go. When they saw it come out. Afterwards, did they accept? They didn't. They rejected. They asked for something else. They're going to keep asking. Fir'aun, he says, the Quran says, this many proofs were shown. They said, we'll accept if you tell your Lord to put it away. Then they rejected again and again and again. Musa doesn't say, look, I'm here to prove to you, you have to show, I'm going to go as far as you accept. No, I'm only going to do what God says. Presenting the truth. He says he's going to show a miracle. All right, this is the miracle. Now you ask for more, like, it's not up to me. God says, no, the truth of the matter is, I don't have any other miracles. I don't have any miracles. God said this. It's bi'idhnillah. You want to be convinced, not convinced? That's not up to me. That's on you. I am going to present the argument, present the truth, explain the truth, which requires what we went over. I hope that Imam al-Rida salamullah alayhi wa ruhi lahu al-fida is pleased with the discussion. Let's take our hearts to Mashhad al-Rida. Sallallahu alaykum ya ahla bayt النبوة وموضع الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة ومعادن الرحمن. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you, my beloved Holy Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you. It was in your homes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us with guidance and revelation. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you. Angels descend upon you day in and day out, seeking permission before entering upon you. Sallallahu alayk ya Aba al-Hasan ya Ali ibn Musa أيها الرضا المرتضى. Consider yourself in his shrine. Those who've been, you each have a corner of his blessed shrine that you're used to for his ziyarah. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you, my beloved Imam al-Rida. The account goes that the Imam was summoned by Ma'mun in the small town. The evidence showed very clearly that there are plans, evil plans in the minds of Ma'mun, the mind of Ma'mun. Abu Salt says, the Imam told me, when I come out, if I'm covering my head with my aba, you should know that's a signal that I'm not doing well. Abu Salt was not allowed in this session. The Imam had to go by himself. When he came out, Abu Salt sees that the Imam is covering his head with his aba, signaling that there's something wrong. I don't know what this poison was. They say the Imam had to sit down a few times. The short distance between the house that Ma'mun was in and where the Imam was staying. Abu Salt went in. The plan was to get everyone out. Everyone was shown out. Abu Salt locked the door. Then he turned around to go back inside where the Imam was. He suddenly sees a young boy. Tells him, how did you get into the house? I just locked the door. He said, the Lord, the God that brought me from Medina to Maru can get me through this locked door. It's Imam al-Jawad. Goes, Imam al-Rida's head is on the lap of Imam al-Jawad. I don't know what this poison was, but whatever it was, as quickly as it took the life of Imam al-Rida, Imam al-Rida's head was on the lap of Imam al-Jawad on his last moments. Imam al-Rida himself has said to Ibn Shabib, Ibn Shabib, إن كنت باكيا فابك على الحسين. Maybe Imam al-Rida or Imam al-Jawad were remembering the last moments of Imam al-Hussein. Imam Zainul Abidin is not there to hold the head of Imam al-Hussein. The only one there is والشمر جالس على صدره. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم بالزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع في بك يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وعلى محبة أوليائك. O Allah, hasten the return of our Imam. Allow us to be of his true and close companions. Ya Allah, help all those who are helping your cause, especially our ulama, our maraja. Ya Allah, bless the soul of all the deceased, all the shuhada, especially our shaheed leader. May Allah, inshallah, help all of us be followers of the Imam of our time as well. May Allah forgive us all of our sins, forgive our parents, our grandparents, our relatives, all believers, those who are alive, those who have passed away. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant all believers worldwide our hajat, their needs, their requests. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant all of us our needs, our requests, relieve all of us, all believers worldwide, hajat, our difficulties, our hardships. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to relieve all the people of the world of the oppressions they're facing. Bin Nabi wa alih, rahimallahu man qara al-Fatihata ma'a as-salawat. بزرگواری دارم. خدا خیرتون بده. التماس دعا.